There's something about ego in the human mind that seems to be corrupted by power. So when you say global governance, that terrifies me more than the possibility of war, because it's
I think people will be less terrified than you are right now. And let me try to paint the picture from their point of view. This isn't my point of view,
Yes.
but I think it's going to be a widely shared point of view.
Yes, this is two devil's advocates arguing, two devils.
Okay. So for the last half century and into the continuing future, we actually have had a strong elite global community that shares a lot of values and beliefs and has created a lot of convergence in global policy. So if you look at electromagnetic spectrum or medical experiments or pandemic policy or nuclear power energy or regulating airplanes or just in a wide range of area, in fact, the world has very similar regulations and rules everywhere. And it's not a coincidence because they are part of a world community where people get together at places like Davos, et cetera, where world elites want to be respected by other world elites, and they have a convergence of opinion, and that produces something like global governance, but without a global center. This is sort of what human mobs or communities have done for a long time. That is, humans can coordinate together on shared behavior without a center by having gossip and reputation within a community of elites. And that is what we have been doing and are likely to do a lot more of. So, for example, one of the things that's happening, say, with the war in Ukraine is that this world community of elites has decided that they disapprove of the Russian invasion, and they are coordinating to pull resources together from all around the world in order to oppose it. And they are proud of that, sharing that opinion, and they feel that they are morally justified in their stance there. And that's the kind of event that actually brings world elite communities together, where they come together and they push a particular policy and position that they share and that they achieve successes. And the same sort of passion animates global elites with respect to, say, global warming or global poverty and other sorts of things. And they are, in fact, making progress on those sorts of things through shared global community of elites. And in some sense, they are slowly walking toward global governance, slowly strengthening various world institutions of governance, but cautiously, carefully, watching out for the possibility of a single power that might corrupt it. I think a lot of people over the coming centuries will look at that history and like it.
It's an interesting thought, and thank you for playing that devil's advocate there. But I think the elites too easily lose touch of the morals that the best of human nature, and power corrupts.
Sure, but
everything you
if
just
their
said,
view is the one that determines what happens, their view may still end up there, even if you or I might criticize it from that point of view. So,
from a perspective of minimizing human suffering, elites can use topics of the war in Ukraine and climate change and all of those things to sell an idea to the world, and with disregard to the amount of suffering it causes, their actual actions. So, like, you can tell all kinds of narratives. That's the way propaganda works.
Right.
Hitler really sold the idea that everything Germany is doing is either it's the victim is defending itself against the cruelty of the world, and it's actually trying to bring out about a better world. So every power center thinks they're doing good. And so this is the positive of competition, of having multiple power centers. This kind of gathering of elites makes me very, very, very nervous. The dinners, the meetings in the closed rooms. I don't know.
But remember, we talked about separating our cold analysis of what's likely or possible from what we prefer. And so this isn't exactly enough time for that. We might say, I would recommend we don't go this route of a strong world governance. And because I would say it'll preclude this possibility of becoming grabby aliens, of filling the next nearest million galaxies for the next billion years with vast amounts of activity and interest and value of life out there. That's the thing we would lose by deciding that we wouldn't expand, that we would stay here and keep our comfortable shared governance.
So you think that global governance makes it more likely or less likely that we expand out into the universe?
Less. So
okay,
this is the key point.
Right. So screw the elites. So
Right.
we want to expand. Wait, do we want to expand?
So again, I want to separate my neutral analysis from my evaluation and say, first of all, I have an analysis that tells us this is a key choice that we will face, and that it's a key choice other aliens have faced out there. And it could be that only 1 in 10 or only 1 in 100 civilizations chooses to expand, and the rest of them stay quiet. And that's how it goes out there. And we face that choice too. And it'll happen sometime in the next 10 million years, maybe the next 1,000. But the key thing to notice from our point of view is that even though you might like our global governance, you might like the fact that we've come together, we no longer have massive wars and we no longer have destructive competition, and that we could continue that. The cost of continuing that would be to prevent interstellar colonization. That is, once you allow interstellar colonization, then you've lost control of those colonies, and whatever they change into, they could come back here and compete with you back here as a result of having lost control. And I think if people value that global governance and the global community and regulation and all the things it can do enough, they would then want to prevent interstellar colonization.
I want to have a conversation with those people. I believe that both for humanity, for the good of humanity, for what I believe is good in humanity, and for expansion, exploration, innovation, distributing the centers of power is very beneficial. So this whole meeting of elites, and I've been very fortunate to meet quite a large number of elites. They make me nervous because it's easy to lose touch of reality. I'm nervous about that in myself, to make sure that you never lose touch as you get sort of older, wiser. You know how you generally get like disrespectful of kids these days. No, the kids are
okay, but I think you should hear a stronger case for their position. So I'm going to play
for the elites.
Yes, well, for the limiting of expansion and for the regulation of behavior. So
okay, can I linger on that?
Sure.
So you're saying those two are connected. So the human civilization and alien civilizations come to a crossroads. They have to decide, do we want to expand or not? And connected to that, do we want to give a lot of power to a central elite?
Right.
Or do we want to distribute the power centers, which is naturally connected to the expansion? When you expand, you distribute the power.
If, say, over the next 1,000 years, we fill up the solar system, right? We go out from Earth and we colonize Mars and we change a lot of things. Within a solar system, still everything is within reach. That is, if there's a rebellious colony around Neptune, you can throw rocks at it and smash it and teach them discipline. Okay.
How does that work for the British
central control over the solar system is feasible.
Yes.
But once you let it escape the solar system, it's no longer feasible. But if you have a solar system that doesn't have a central control, maybe broken into 1,000 different political units in the solar system, then any one part of that allows interstellar colonization, and it happens. That is, interstellar colonization happens when only one party chooses to do it and is able to do it. And that's what it is there for. So we can just say, in a world of competition, if interstellar colonization is possible, it will happen, and then competition will continue. And that will sort of ensure the continuation of competition into the indefinite future.
Yeah. And competition, we don't know, but competition can take violent forms or can take productive forms.
And the case I was going to make is that I think one of the things that most scares people about competition is not just that it creates holocausts and death on massive scales, is that it's likely to change who we are and what we value.
Yes. So this is the other thing with power. As we grow, as human civilization grows, becomes multiplanetary, multi-solar system potentially, how does that change us, do you think?
I think the more you think about it, the more you realize it can change us a lot. So, first of all, I would
This is
say,
pretty dark, by the way.
well, it's depending
It's just honest. I
right. Well, I'm
suppose.
trying to get there. But I think the first thing you should say, if you look at history, just human history over the last 10,000 years, if you really understood what people were like a long time ago, you'd realize they were really quite different. Ancient cultures created people who were really quite different. Most historical fiction lies to you about that. It often offers you modern characters in an ancient world. But if you actually study history, you will see just how different they were and how differently they thought. And they've changed a lot many times, and they've changed a lot across time. So I think the most obvious prediction about the future is, even if you only have the mechanisms of change we've seen in the past, you should still expect a lot of change in the future. But we have a lot bigger mechanisms for change in the future than we had in the past. So I have this book called The Age of M, Work, Love, and Life and Robots Rule the Earth. And it's about what happens if brain emulations become possible. So a brain emulation is where you take a actual human brain and you scan it in fine spatial and chemical detail to create a computer simulation of that brain. And then those computer simulations of brains are basically citizens in a new world. They work and they vote and they fall in love and they get mad and they lie to each other. And this is a whole new world. And my book is about analyzing how that world is different than our world, basically using competition as my key lever of analysis. That is, if that world remains competitive, then I can figure out how they change in that world, what they do differently than we do. And it's very different. And it's different in ways that are shocking sometimes to many people, and ways some people don't like. I think it's an okay world, but I have to admit it's quite different. And that's just one technology. If we add, dozens more technologies, changes into the future, we should just expect it's possible to become very different than who we are. I mean, in the space of all possible minds, our minds are a particular architecture, a particular structure, a particular set of habits, and they are only, one piece in a vast space of possibilities. The space of possible minds is really huge.